Hello and welcome back to my Unicorn Onesie series when marketing feels like shouting into a void. Today's video is part 2 of a series, so if you didn't see part 1, go back and watch that. I'll include the link in the little iCard and then also at the end of the video. This is part 2, getting excited about author newsletters and email book marketing. Ta-da! For this video, I'm going to put, two things about this video. One, I'm using a new camera and the lens is autofocusing and I think the mic can pick it up. I'm going to try and take it out but I don't know what I'm doing. So, if there are little focusing sounds, I think we're just going to deal with it and try and do our best. And if I don't like it, then I'll go back to something else in the next video. Also, for this video, I'm going to put timestamps in the description because I think that this video might get a bit long. And so what I'm going to try and do is list the different points at which you might want to jump into the video, okay? Because I'm going to do a bunch of things. I'm going to touch on the absolute basics of email marketing. So this is for anybody who hasn't gotten comfortable yet with email marketing. Like maybe you have a mailing list and you don't use it, or you don't have one. Like I know there are authors who have multiple books out and they don't collect reader emails at all. So the first part of this video is for you guys. Put my horns straight. And then I'm also going to cover, for the people who have that, have a handle on that, I'm going to cover how to make sure you're pulling people onto your list from your books, frequency of email sending, segmenting your list, marketing your backlist to your list, and in the middle of all of that, I'm so excited about this one. Well, I mean, it's one little thing, but every time I share it to somebody, they get really excited. So, are you ready? In the middle of all of that, I'm going to share my absolute most important mailing list hack of all time. And it is it really was a big deal when it was like a light bulb moment, and I'm going to share that with you. So the timestamps will take you to all of those. Ready? But before we dig into the basics, I just want to loop back to the question that I asked at the end of part 1. I said, so if we go to the 4 basic elements of a marketing plan, I want you to ask yourself, how can you make email marketing work for you? What would a sustainable model of that look like? How can you set a goal for social media that does not depend on immediate validation in terms of responses? What research can you do into email blast services like BookBub or FreeBooksy to better understand their utility in a marketing plan? And when and where could you use cost per click advertising? I asked those 4 questions in that way very deliberately. All of those questions are framed in a way that does not allow much space for negativity. Negative self-talk is like being a bully to yourself, and we don't need any more bullies in our lives. But on the other hand, sometimes the negativity has more power when it's silent and inside our own head, and we feel like we can't admit that fear to anybody else. I don't want to pretend that I'm always Little Miss Positivity. I'm not. I have those thoughts too. But as we work through each of the different facets of a marketing plan, today, email, try not to let those negative thoughts, try not to let them be hard stops. Be open to hearing that just because something hasn't worked or just because you don't like something doesn't mean it won't work for your brand, right? You don't have to like it personally. You could like it for your brand. Try to twist "that doesn't work" into a question, how does that work? And most importantly, get comfortable with the idea that occasional success is success. Nothing works all the time. And remember, and this is not like I didn't come up with this analogy, but it has stayed with me. Remember that batting a consistent .333, I don't even know baseball terms, batting a consistent .300 or whatever will land you in the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's missing every That's missing 2 out of every 3 at-bats, right? If you swing and a miss 2 out of every 3 times, you're still better than literally everyone else, all right? Okay, so to remind you, the 4 areas of marketing that we're going to be covering in this series: direct mail, which is email marketing, text alerts, physical mailers, that sort of thing, text bot messaging, all of that. All of those are the same kind of things, and we're going to talk about the email side of it in today's video. Then we'll move on to social media, which is your own corners of social media, plus also the virality of it, the organic reach of bloggers and readers. The third facet of it is email blasts and paid advertising to areas of the internet where they have gathered their own audiences, like for example, featured deal advertising, BookBub and FreeBooksy. And then fourth and final is cost per click advertising. Today though, email. Okay. So as I very briefly just touched on there, leveling up in this category of direct marketing would also mean something like text message alerts, bot messaging, physical mailers, influencer advanced review copies, packages, book boxes, that sort of thing. Those next steps should be built on success at the email marketing list. Don't pivot to one of those if email marketing isn't working for you, because at the core, it's the exact same marketing action. Reconnecting with a reader who has initiated contact with you, so it's reader to us initiated, because they have an interest in at least one of your books. The absolute most basic form of direct mail is using an email service like MailChimp, Flowdesk, MailerLite, MadMimi, Substack, or TinyLetter. The last 2 there are actually just like completely free. The others all are, you have to pay for them once you hit a certain level or after a certain free trial period. Using any of those services to collect a list of readers who have read your books and want to hear from you again. If you want to jump past this basic explanation, a reminder that I'm going to use timestamps in the description, so go there and jump ahead to what I think is the most important mailing list hack. That's the next topic. But first, if you are resistant to the idea of having an author newsletter, let me repeat what I just said. It is a list of readers who have read your books and want to hear from you again about your books. They are literally asking you to email them. It doesn't matter if you aren't a newsletter person yourself, and it doesn't matter if you only have 10 people on your list. Once a month, send them an email with the world's briefest update. For example, dear reader, here's the May update from my writing cave. I'm halfway through the first draft of The Lady Loves a Necromancer, and I think, fingers crossed, I'll be able to share pre-order links next month. Me. And then next month, dear reader, me again, June update. I was right. The Lady Loves a Necromancer is coming along nicely. It's off to the editor now, and it will release in September. Here are the first pre-order links I have. Get ready to love a necromancer right along with the lady. Me. Literally just a paragraph of text. That's all that you need to do. And make sure you include links wherever possible. Maybe in July, you might pivot to your backlist. Dear reader, it's hot here in the Northern Hemisphere, but I'm working on a platonic flirtation with the grocery delivery guy. Speaking of adorable slow burn meet cutes, hands up if you've read my first book. I've put it on sale for the rest of the month. Here's a post if you'd like to help me spread the news. And that is a sly sideways nod to next week, how we can integrate the different marketing elements so we aren't always recreating the wheel, right? Social media, email, they all eventually integrate in our plan. And that's it. That's what email marketing looks like in its most basic form. If you aren't a fan of that, then I have a solution. Hire somebody to do it for you. A family member or a friend, paid in cinnamon buns, for example, or a virtual assistant could do it too. It's less than an hour to set up and send out a basic newsletter a month. And if you really don't like it, but you have a whole bunch of books, then paying somebody to do it will pay for itself once you start getting them to set it up properly and include links. And you could just send them to this video, for example. Okay. So that is, in a nutshell, literally all that email marketing is. You need to collect the list, and we're going to talk more about that in a minute. And you need to regularly send out emails. If you don't regularly send out emails, then you know, there are whole courses. There's a really great book called Newsletter Ninja, which you should read if you are interested in the details of things. But basically, if you don't send out a regular email, then when you do send out an email, it's more likely to end up in spam. So do the regular email thing. Okay. Now we're done with the basic stuff. Let's get a little bit more nuanced. All right. Ready for the most important mailing list hack? Are you ready? Here's the thing about mailing lists. What service you start out with isn't going to be the service that you are likely with forever. I have bounced all over the place. I started with MailChimp, and then I went to another service which then closed, and then I took my list from there to MailerLite, and then I still use MailerLite for one of my pen names, but I didn't like having both of my pen names in the same spot because it made the unsubscribe a bit funny, because when they went to unsubscribe from one list, they were offered the choice of unsubscribing from both. I didn't like presenting it to them like that. So I took my Ainsley list is still with MailerLite. I took my Zoe list and I went back to MailChimp for a while, but then I found MailChimp got a bit expensive. And long story short, now I'm with Flowdesk. And there's a link to Flowdesk in the comments as well if you are interested in trying it. That's an affiliate link because I'm really enjoying working with them. Okay. But more importantly, like the list that you have is your own list. So important. They don't own it. It's not proprietary to them. So you do not ever want to use their sign up link. Like they will create a nice form for you and they will give you a URL to use. It's like a shortened, like MailChimp's was like EE Pearl something. Don't use that. Here's the hack. Take that URL that they give you for the sign up form and embed it on your website. Like take the code to embed the form on your website, or take that URL if you want to use their landing page and put it behind a smart link, like a redirect link. You can look at mine, for example. I use smarturl.it. Highly recommend them. Link in the description for those as well. No, there's no affiliate link there. I just really like them. So my newsletter sign up is www.smarturl.it/Zoe York newsletter. For one thing, that's very easy for me to always remember, right? But you'll see that when you go to it, it actually goes to my website and an embedded form there, or it could be a landing page, you know, whatever. But if you start out at MailChimp, and you then can go, if you start out at MailChimp and you use their URL in the front of your books and your back of the books, which is what we're going to talk about next, then when you move your list, those signups kind of get orphaned at MailChimp. They will still keep collecting there. It's really important to remember that you can just put an account on hold and stop paying for it. Names will still keep collecting there. But then you have to remember to go and get them. And frankly, I don't do that. So this was a mistake that I made for the first 2 years of my book career. All of my books, all those books that distributed then, I had a BookBub on my first book and I think my second book. And all of those hundreds of thousands of copies that exist out there have the wrong URL at the back of the book saying, please sign up for my newsletter. So every so often, now 7 years later, still on MailChimp, there are new signups that I have to go sometimes and find it and bring over to wherever my list currently exists. Okay, that's my great hack. Hide your sign up link underneath a redirect link that you can control, and you can go and you can swap out. You know what? Maybe I'll actually even insert just what that kind of looks like, how you can do that on Smart URL. Yes, I'm going to do that here. Okay. So this way you can change the underlying form and where your list is collected without having to reformat your books, which is really important because your books are the #1 driving force of where the people that you really want on your list, they come from having read your books, which is why I'm losing my unicorn horn. There we go. Okay. Which is why you want to make sure that when your ebooks are formatted, you have a link at the front and at the back of your book, right? So in your front matter, before the book starts, you want to have like a pretty like little graphic or text that says something about like VIP readers, or love to stay in touch with readers, and a link there. You might get some signups there, but then when they reach the end, and literally after the end, you want the next line of text to be, I love to hear from my readers, please sign up. If you want to, maybe you might write like a little bonus epilogue about this couple and put that in an email, something like that, or free books. There's lots of call to action, CTA. There are lots of different email call to actions that you can put there. And if you have put it at the front of the book, that when they see it at the end of the book, that's their second time seeing it, and they're more likely to click and do it. That's where you're going to get most of your signups, but you get even more if it's the second time that concept of signing up has been introduced to them. The other place where you want to do it is, of course, on your website. You definitely want to have very clear. Anytime anybody comes to your website, they are super interested in your books. Get them to sign up for your mailing list. All right. Next, frequency of emails. So if you have watched the first half of this video for the details about how to get started with an email list, this part might not be for you yet. Go to the timestamps and skip to the end. But bookmark this video and come back in a few months, because then you'll be ready to hear my thoughts on frequency. Because what I start with here, really the only one I'm going to get into in great detail, I'm like losing my hood, is because what I think that once you think about this, the rest is going to fall into place. And also, literally, this could be like 3 hours of us talking about all the different permutations, all the different email schedules. I'm just going to lose my hood because it's just pulling down. Okay. That you could possibly do. But the most important, the absolute most important one here, for anybody who, once you get a handle on it, once you know kind of what you want to do with your email marketing, increase the number of emails you send in book release week. In a release week, I think you should send at least 2, if not 3 emails to your mailing list. And I can hear some of you screaming at me right now because you made a very clear promise to your readers that your email list was only for once a month newsletters on the 3rd Thursday of the month at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time precisely. Writer, they don't remember what was on that sign up form. They don't. And if they don't like your emails, they can unsubscribe. Remember, your email list is to market your books to a list of people who want to hear about your books. If somebody changes their mind about being on that list, they should go, right? You don't want to be paying for them to be on their list if they're not interested in that anymore. And it doesn't matter if they would rather follow you on social media. It doesn't matter if they're done reading your books at all, right? Your email list is strictly for people to hear about your books. That's it. So that's what you should be using it for. Okay. And then I do have more thoughts about frequency. Like, I think that you should probably, Holly Mortimer has a really great set of ideas about reverse engineering a sequence of emails. You could work with someone like her. The Newsletter Ninja book probably is a good one also. But the key is send more emails than you think that you should. Yes, send more. Send more. And send them joyously. And also send them deliberately. Like, you want to plan those in advance, just like when you're, for somebody who's at the basics, I'm like, plan to send them, monthly. Once you're past that point, when you are going to be increasing the number of emails that you send, plan that out. Like plan out, okay, what would the different topics be that I could do every 2 weeks or twice a month? Around a release, plan those out, like write it down, right? So that when you sit down at the computer and be like, I have to send a newsletter now, what should it be? That you're never gonna be able to put it together then. It's not gonna make sense then. All right. How much time do we have? Oh, we're doing okay. I'm trying to keep this not too long, but also I have so many things to say. All right. Segmenting. One bonus for paying professional email list service is using their slick tools to send different emails to different groups. So for example, you might be really reluctant to send a second or third email in release week. But what if you only sent it to people who didn't even open the first one? What could possibly be the harm there? So play around with some segments, see what your email service provider has there in terms of like, can I send it to everybody who hasn't opened the last 5 emails? Can I send a different email to people who haven't opened like the last 10 or 20 or 50 emails that I've sent? And some of you are like, I've never even sent 50 emails. Well, get on it, and then eventually you'll be able to do some really interesting segmenting stuff. But also think about not just using it to like, who can I send that new release email to, but how can I use my email list to really reward the people who are already engaged. Thank you emails, for example. Insights into like your own personal, that, you know, the personal side of your persona, which we're going to get more into next week in the social media one. Like those people who already open all of your emails, make sure that you give them a couple of Instagram pictures in your next email. They will love that because they already are interested in you. All right, next, backlist marketing. Here, you know, I called the redirect link for your email sign up the greatest hack of all time, but I feel like this is probably the second one. Not everyone on your email list has read all of your books. I'm going to let you think about that for a second, because the thing is that we tend to think, oh, they've signed up for my list, they must be a super fan. And then we don't understand why they haven't bought our new release. Well, they haven't bought your new release because it's book 3 in a series they haven't started yet. So, and they signed up because they liked a book that you released 5 years ago and you haven't written any more in that series because you pivoted and went off in a new direction. So our backlist can always be pushed. Our mailing list is a really warm audience for our backlist as well. I did a survey at the end of last year, and keep in mind, when you send a survey to your readers, only the people who really like you are going to be willing to complete it in the first place, right? Like the people who opt into that survey, I know they're already like really big fans. And people on that survey, like a solid chunk of them had read 5 or less of my books, and they still consider themselves really big fans of mine. And if you are honest with yourself, you probably recognize that reader behavior in yourself too. So do not miss an opportunity to tell your backlist about an earlier book in a series that you have an upcoming release in. That's one email you can send out. 2, an entire series that maybe you have on sale. Or 3, anytime you hit a milestone. So every year on the anniversary of you releasing your very first book, pimp that book to your mailing list. All right. And remember, all of these things I've said, the first time that you try them, they may feel like they don't work. They might not work every time. If they only work once every 3 times, you're still like a Hall of Fame author, right? You're still going to be like knocking it out of the park more often than most. So try again, and most importantly, plan ahead. Write down the list of emails that you want to send between now and the end of the summer. Like plan out your emails between now and September, whether that's 1 a month, whether it's 2 a month, whether it's 4 a month. All of those are perfectly acceptable frequencies. Plan out what the subjects are going to be, what possible content you can include, and you might tweak that before. You might even want to go ahead and batch write. Spend 1 day batch writing all of those newsletters, get them saved and ready to go, and then you might even go in and pre-schedule when you send them to completely disconnect you from the moment of having sent it and waiting for that the emotional payback of whether or not you get the engagement. It's always good to look at engagement. We're going to talk about that at the end of this sequence of videos, but right now I really want you to focus more on just setting up the mechanics of the process, setting up an email marketing plan that is no stress, not a lot of work, and makes sense and is kind of related to your goals. All right, if you have any questions about that, leave them in the comments. I really hope that the lens sound wasn't too bad. I hope that this wasn't a blurry video, because I tried to make it yesterday and it was blurry, and I really don't want to try and make it a third time. And with that, I will say goodbye from the Unicorn Onesie. I'll be back next week. I'm not going to do any more videos this week because I am trying to get Reckless at Heart done. And if you liked the little Lady Loves a Necromancer reference, that is an inside joke from inside Reckless at Heart, which comes out June 2nd. And I will talk a lot about in that first week of June, and maybe the week before, to kind of like warm people up for it. To at least model that for you guys. So those are my thoughts on email marketing. I hope this wasn't too long. I hope it stirred some questions in you, and I hope it helped you start to refine your email marketing plan. I will see you again next week.